back in our regularly scheduled filming location. Ignore that. That suitcase will likely sit there for 3 to 5 business days. Don't talk to me about it. Let's go ahead and jump into today's video. So I want to talk about all of the unfinished series and or duets that I currently have started and that I would like to get around to finishing at some point. I've been kind of struggling to come up with video ideas, and then as I was flipping through, filling out my reading journal, I forgot that I literally have a section in there for unfinished duets and series so that I can kind of keep track of them, and I pulled out all the ones that I still am interested. There are some in there that now I feel like I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'll ever get to those at this point, but I have quite a few series that I have started and would like to keep going with. So this list only includes series that have books out currently that I haven't read. It doesn't include series that I'm up to date on all of the releases, like the Hellbound series by Penelope Douglas. I'm up to date on it. Obviously, there are 5 more books come out. I will be reading those, but I'm up to date on them, so there's nothing like to add about that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on in, especially while they are not doing any lawn care. I've been waiting to film until they've been done, so I think they're done with the lawns. So let's go ahead here. First up is the Boys series by Macaulay Smelter. This is a new adult sports romance series, and I have read the first 3 books. There are 5 currently out. I have really enjoyed this entire series. The second book is by far my favorite. It's the one that I talk about the most. It's called Nice Guys Don't Win, but I think Good Guys Don't Lie is the next one up on the list, and then it's like Broken Boys Can't Love, I think is book 5. These are still really high priority ones for me. They're all standalone, so you could like jump in and read them in whatever order. I just like to read things in order, so I've read this series in order so far, and I'll probably continue to do that. I just need to be back in the new adult mood. I haven't really been in like a college-y mood lately, but as soon as I am, I'll be picking these up. Next up is a duet, The Losers Duet by Harley LaRue. So I've read part 1. I need to read part 2. I think part of the reason why I haven't read part 2 is it's a thick boy. These are like big chunky books, and also it's not on KU. I'm pretty sure because the Dare was banned on KU, so Harley LaRue didn't even bother to put either parts of The Losers on there. So I will read this eventually, but again, I think I kind of have to be in the mood for it. It's definitely, for me, I thought it's way more like spice than plot, so I just really have to be like in the mood for that, and right now I'm just like craving plot. Eventually we'll get around to it, but right now it's still remaining unfinished. And then another series by Harley LaRue that I still have to finish is the Souls trilogy. So this one actually only has 2 books out in it, and I think the third one is releasing next month, actually, if I'm correct. And I've only read the first one, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of my top books of 2021, but it is like a standalone. The series, I think you have to read like in order, but they all follow different couples. So I just have not gotten around to reading the second book. However, it's a really, really high priority read for me. Don't take a shot with how many times I say it's a high priority read for me, because I don't want to be responsible for your health by the end of this video, but truly this one is a high priority read for me. Jumping back in, because the second couple I think was not like the ones that interested me the most, but the third couple I was like intrigued in from the first book. So I really want to make sure that I can finish the second, so when the third releases I can just like jump right on it if I want to. Next up is the Priest series by Sarah Simone. So I have read the first 2, and there are 3 books currently. There is also a novella as well, and I haven't read that, but I'm not like counting that in here right now. So I still have not read the third book, which is Saint. Again, I really want to get to it soon. I read Sinner at the beginning of the year. I've read Priest twice, and Sinner so far is definitely my favorite, I'd say, out of them all, or out of the 2 that I've read, I guess. But I'm really excited for Saint. I think it's going to be way more emotional than the other 2 books are, just from like what I've heard from people, from like watching people talk about it. I'm like preparing myself for more of an emotional journey. And also I will have to be in the mood to read a physical book, because these are not on KU and I own the paperback of Saint. So I also need to be in the mood to actually be reading a paperback instead of on my Kindle. Next up is the Passion and Venom series by Shanora Williams. I think this is a trilogy, and I've only read the first one, and the first one ends with a big cliffhanger and it follows the same couple. So this is definitely one that I was very intrigued on to keep going in after I finished the first book. But once again, these are not on KU, and I'm pretty picky about books. Like, there are so many books on KU that I want to read, so it's kind of like if there's not one on KU, then I'm like, I could just keep reading books on Kindle Unlimited. So I will get around to it eventually, but I'd say that this one is like probably farther down the list just because of that reason alone. I know that's like kind of stupid for some people, but for me, when I already pay for Kindle Unlimited and I have such a huge Kindle Unlimited TBR and a huge physical TBR, I don't really like spending money on ebooks then. So again, I'd like to read it eventually. It's a very dark mafia trilogy, but I just have not gotten around to it. Oh, I guess I just realized, did I really say the Souls trilogy is a paranormal romance trilogy with demons and humans, and then the Priest series is like a lot of like religion discussion while also being like spicy romances. Yeah. Okay, then the Vancouver Wolves series by Odette Stone. So these are hockey romances, and I've read the first 2 out of the 4 of them. Again, they're all standalones following different couples. The first one is, I don't know, actually, is that one? I think maybe the second one is actually my favorite, but the first one I actually chose for a read along that I'm doing with some of my friends here on BookTube for the entire month of August. There are 5 of us. We all chose different sports romance books that we either love or have been interested in reading, and we're going to be reading them week by week, and then at the end we'll have a live show that'll be on my channel the first week in September. All of the details live over on our Instagrams for that, but Puck Me Secretly, the first book in this series, was my pick for the read along because I just love it so much and I want more people to read it, and I love this series. But again, I feel like hockey romances have just been so popular right now, and I then like that makes me like not want to touch them with a 10-foot pole. But I do love hockey romances, and I do want to read the rest of this series eventually. I own the 3rd book, actually, the Penalty Box, and I think that one might also have a little bit of a mafia in it. Not like strong, but I'm pretty sure the hero maybe has some mafia ties, but he's like a hockey player now. Definitely want to keep going with the series, and yeah, once I'm back in that hockey mood, I'll devour these. And we got the Filthy Rich American series by Nikki Sloan. So this is 5 books. I've read 3 of them. So the first 3 follow the same couple. So I feel like I've kind of like completed that arc. But then the 4th and 5th books follow different characters. And the 4th one actually follows the dad. And he is a very heavy player in the first 3 books. So I am really excited to read his book, especially because he's not always the most likable character in that first book. He actually is a bit of a foe for the couple, and it kind of is like love triangle-y a little bit with the dad, but he's like kind of also a piece of garbage. And I think his book is even called like The Redemption because it's like McAllister's Redemption. I need to be in the mood to read a physical book. I own this series physically. It's not on KU. I don't think it's on KU. I know she recently put some more of her books on there, but I don't think this was one of them. And I think I binged the first 3, so I think that's the other thing, that once I like was done with those, I needed a break from that series, and just now I've never gone back. That happens to me a lot. I end up binging like a couple of books in a series, and then I kind of burn myself out, and then I'm like, I need a bit of a break, and then I just never go back and finish them. Next is the Twisted Tales series by Emily McIntyre. The 5th one is about to release like literally in a couple of days here. So I'm going to say I've read 3 out of 5. We're going to include that new release in here because by the time that this video goes up, it like is almost going to be out. So these are spins on classic fairy tales, and I've read the first 3. Scarred is my favorite. It's book 2. It's a Lion King retelling. And like the first one is Peter Pan, and it's Hook and Wendy. The 3rd one is Wizard of Oz, and it's, okay, that one I can't really speak as much on because I've never seen Wizard of Oz, so I don't want to say the witch is, but she's not a witch, she's like a person. They're all like contemporary romances, but she's the heroine in it. So sometimes it's like villains getting their happy endings. But anyways, Twisted is the next one that I need to read, and it's a Jasmine and Jafar one, which is like by far the one I'm most intrigued by because I love Aladdin. However, it's not out on my audio yet, and I've listened to the audios for 2 of the 3 of these, and I've loved reading them that way. So I'm kind of like debating with myself on if I want to wait for my Hoopla to get the audio, or if I want to just go ahead and read it physically. And then the next one is Hunchback of Notre Dame. So I'm very excited with this series. I've really been loving it this year. This next series, I do want to finish it. I do, but I'm also so scared to keep going with it, and that's the Sins of the Father series by Cora Riley. If y'all have been around my channel for any length of time, y'all know Cora Riley's mafia books are like my ride or die mafia books. I love her mafia worlds that she created. So when she announced the Sins of the Father series, the spin-off, the second gen of the Kimura Chronicles and the Born in Blood Chronicles, oh my god, I was so excited. And then the first 2 books came out and I was so disappointed. I really did not like those at all. That has kind of turned me off from this series as a whole. I think now there are 4 books out in it. I could be wrong, there might be 5, but I think it's 4. I think I'm only behind on 2. And I just have not been able to bring myself to start the 3rd one because I'm so scared of hating it still. Like, I don't want to not like these. I want to love them so badly. Especially because book 4 is 2 of the kids of 2 of the couples that are my favorites. So I really, really want to get to that book. And I know you don't have to read them in order, but I'm a stickler for it. And I don't want to skip Anna's book, which is book 3, but I have just been really struggling with this series. So I don't know. I will catch up eventually. I'm scared of not liking it. Next is the Something in the Way series by Jessica Hawkins. I've only read the first book out of, I think there's 4 of this. So I was really frustrated by the first book of this because it is a age gap forbidden sisters boyfriends romance. And I expected in the first book for there to be romance. And there's not. Because the heroine is like 16 and the hero is like, what, 20 or something? So there's no romance that happens between them this entire book. And I assumed, like, when the book started and they first saw each other and they met when she was younger, that we would like time jump ahead a little bit. Like, we'd get that groundwork and then we time jump ahead to when she's older, he's a little bit older, you know, and they're like getting together. Nope. So I was frustrated by this book by the time that I finished, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to continue with it. But again, I think I really just have to be in the right state of mind for this book, especially knowing that there's not going to be romance. And then someone commented that like there's not even romance in the second book. I'm like, oh my god. But so many people just say that it's like so angsty and so good as a whole. So I need to see it through. I really do. But the first book really frustrated me a lot. Next up is the Like Us series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So I think actually the 11th, is it the 11th one? Just came out, like just released. So I've read the first 5 of them so far. This is the second generation of the Addicted/Calloway Sisters series, following all of their kids and their various bodyguards. I've read the first 5. I have a reading vlog reading the first 5. I absolutely have been devouring this series. I just needed a little bit of a break because I read the first 5 kind of quickly back to back so I could do that vlog, and kind of burned myself out a little bit that I didn't want to continue doing that with the rest of the series. So I will keep going with them eventually. There is one book that I'm actually planning on skipping. I know, I never skip books, but there's one that it's a bodyguard and the like Hollywood producer that produces their show, and I just like truly couldn't care less about that. So I did ask one of my friends and she was like, you can like kind of skip it. You do get more, I guess, insight into one of the kids, but he doesn't even have a book out yet. So I feel like when his book releases, then I'll like maybe go back and read it. But especially with having 11 of these books out right now, I don't want to get held up on the one that I don't want to read. So I will keep going with them. But I don't get all the hate that this series gets. I think it's honestly so fun. Next up, Kingmakers by Sophie Lark. I literally just read The Heir at the beginning of this month, so I haven't like spent that much time sitting on reading book 2. And actually I did start the second book. I've just kind of put it to the side while I've been getting some other books done that I've been needing to read. But this is, again, a second generation series following the Brutal Birthright children from her other series, and it's like Hogwarts meets Mafia Academy, and I really enjoyed The Heir. Definitely not as much as some of the parents' books. I think I went into this thinking that like The Heir would be a 5-star read for me, and it wasn't, but I still really enjoyed it, and I'm excited for some of the other books in the series. I'm specifically most excited to get to book 5 because that is Nero and Camille's daughter, and they are by far my favorite couple in the Brutal Birthright series. So I'm really excited to keep going on with it. I'm hoping like over the summer to keep going. I was debating on vlogging these, but honestly, y'all don't really seem to like vlogs that much, and like I don't love doing vlogs either, so I probably won't do a vlog for them, and instead I'll just like talk about them in my updates. Next up is the St. Mary's Rebels series by Saffron Kent. Again, I've only read the first one. I think there are 5 out. I've read Bad Boy Blues, which technically is like 0.5 on Goodreads. It doesn't even say it's #1. My Darling Arrow counts as #1. So actually, wait, are there 6? Are there 6 books out at this point? No, actually there might be 6 out at this point. And I think she just recently put these on KU. So again, another reason why I hadn't read these for so long, that even though I know I've loved other Saffron Kent books, I don't really like spending a lot of money on ebooks when I have KU. So now that these are in Kindle Unlimited, I plan on reading them. They're all new adult ones. And I think the first one is Sister's Boyfriend. I'm not sure of the tropes all throughout, but then there is like a principal or like a chancellor student romance at a college, I think. I really like Saffron Kent's books. So she writes a specific type of heroine, so I feel like you either like it or you don't, but I do. So I definitely want to keep going at some point. Let's see. Next up is the Windy City series by Liz Tom Ford. So there's actually only 2 books out of this one right now. There is a 3rd one coming out in October. And I've only read one of the 2 that are released right now. So I really liked Mile High. I don't think I loved it as much as everyone else did. And that's why I'm kind of scared of reading The Right Move, because everyone and their mother loves that book and like is die hard for that book. And I'm scared of reading it and not liking it. So I do want to read it eventually. I just haven't been in the mood for like a sports romance book. And I don't know. I'm really scared of not liking it. But I do want to keep going because it sounds good. I'm just scared of like not liking everyone's favorite book. Next is the Was I Ever series by Naomi Loud. So I think this one only has 2 books out, but I think at least there's 3 planned. I don't know if there's more past that. I've only read the first one and I was blown away by it. We read it for Out of Bounds a couple months back. It was our pick, and it's a stalker amnesia. Wait, is it amnesia? It's a stalker romance, but he like sees her and realizes that she's the one that he's been searching for like lifetimes, and that when he died for a hot second and he like saw his soulmate and saw them like living multiple lifetimes, never being able to like get together, and then now in this current lifetime he's found her, but he's got to like convince her that they're supposed to be together. Okay, that was a really shoddy explanation for it, but trust me, this book was so unique, and it's very character driven, it's very emotional, and it was just so unique, and I was so blown away by Naomi Loud's writing that I'm definitely very interested in continuing on with more of their books. But specifically with the second book in the series, we saw the friend and I think the hero in this first book, but the friend is like a very bubbly, kind of like brighter character, and then when you read the synopsis of this book, she's actually, I think, a cult survivor, and she had to kill someone in order to escape. And it sounds dark, like her past sounds pretty dark that she's kind of running from. So I'm really intrigued to keep going with this. Next up is a trilogy that follows the same couple, and that is The Prince's Bride by J.J. McAvoy, this trilogy. So it's a royalty series, and it's like a modern day royalty series. So I read the first book and I did really enjoy it. However, it's very slow burn, and the entire book takes place in America when like he's a prince of some cool country, and I'm like, why did you have to come over here to court her? I just don't want to be here, so like let's go back to your country. And actually I think the second book, it's definitely gonna have to take place back in the country with the big cliffhanger that it ended on. Yeah, I was in a really big royalty romance mood when I read the first book, and now I've kind of fallen out of that, so I just have to wait until I'm back in the right mood for a royalty romance to pick this one up. Next up is the Dalton Brothers series by Marnie Mann. I've read the first 3 out of 5 books that are currently out. I've listened to them all on audio, and I've loved reading them that way. So the 4th book has the audio on my Hoopla. The 5th book like literally just released, and I haven't noticed it pop up on my Hoopla yet. But anyways, The Intern I think is the next one that I need to read. And again, they're all like billionaire romances, and I have just burnt myself out on billionaires at the moment. So I have said no more billionaires. Like I can't do another billionaire right now. But as soon as I'm back in that mood, because I do love that trope, I just think I've read way too many in too short amount of time, that I will be jumping back into these because they're so fun, they're hot, they're light, and like they don't ever get like super dark or super dramatic or like very extra. They're just like solid across the board fun reads, And that's just what I need in my life. So as soon as I'm back in the billionaire mood, I will be reading. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. Rules of the Game series by Avery Keelan. So this one only has 2 books out currently. I've only read the first one, Shut Out. The second book like just came out this past month, I think, actually. So again, I'm giving myself some grace on the fact that I haven't read it yet, but they're new adult hockey romances. Again, like I said previously, I just haven't been in the hockey mood, but as soon as I am, this will probably be one of the next ones that I pick up because I really, really loved Offside. I read that at the beginning of the year and I was really impressed by it. And Shut Out sounds really good too. Like the entire premise does, and it's shorter. Like Offsides was super, super long, but this one I think is like around the 350 page mark, which is like sweet spot. I'm really excited to get to it eventually, but we just gotta get back in the hockey mood. Then we got the Pandoras Box series by Liza James. So this one has, I think it's only 2 books. I don't know if she's planning on adding more to it, but the first one is Vibe and the second one is Hush. So I've read Vibe, I haven't read Hush yet, so I want to read that one. So these are dark sapphic romances. I don't know if the second one has anything to do with cults or anything. I know the first one does. So Hush, you do see at least one of the heroines in the first book. I can't remember if you see both of them or just one. And honestly, I don't really even know the premise, but like around the book at all, but I just want to keep going with it because I've been loving everything that I read from Liza James. Okay, next is the Odyssey Duet by Rebecca Sharp. So this is a professor-student forbidden romance, and I've read the first one, The Fall of Troy, and I haven't read the second one, which I can't remember what the second one is called, but I do need to read it, or something, The Judgment of Paris, I think. So the first one ends on a cliffhanger. It follows the same couple, and I think I just felt at the moment satisfied enough with where, even though it wasn't like a happy ending yet at the end of the first book, I think I was like satisfied enough with it. But now as I've sat on it the more, I'm like, I really want to keep going with that duet, especially because Dr. Rebecca Sharp's writing is super, super well done, I think, especially with the student teacher trope, because I feel like now so many student teacher books do not feel that forbidden, and that kind of annoys me. And even this one I don't think was like as forbidden as it could be, but I think the more I've sat on it, the more I'm like, I actually really want to finish out their story. So my Hoopla, I think, has the audio of the second book. That's how I read the first one, so I'll listen to it at some point. Next up is the Hoop series by Kennedy Ryan. I've read the first 2 out of 3. Long Shot was one of my favorites of 2021. Block Shot I read right at the end of this past year and loved it. And I think, what's this last one? Hook Shot? Again, it's like they're all basketball romances. Like, I think, is this one a single dad? Am I making that up? I think it might be, and I think that's why I've kind of put it off. I'm not a big fan of kids in books. Y'all know this. So I think that's this one, right? I could be mistaken, but I want to say this is a single dad one, and that's kind of why I put it off. But I like to complete things, and I love Kennedy Ryan's writing, so eventually I'll finish it. Next is the Kings of Sin series by Anna Huang. So far only 2 books are out, and I've read the first one. I haven't read the second. Again, nothing against Anna Huang, because y'all know how much I love her and I love her books. Oh, I love them so much. However, I just can't do another billionaire romance right now, and I don't want to read this just to read it, because like I love her books. I want to read it because I'm in the mood for it, and I don't want to push myself when I'm not feeling billionaires, knowing that this is a billionaire romance. So I will hold out, and as soon as the billionaire mood strikes me again, I'm ready to watch someone just shake some money over his lady, I will be reading it. Okay, my last 2 that I have. So the Broken series by KB Rowe. I think there's going to be 3 books. So far only 2 are out, and I've read the first one. And I actually started the second one, and then I had to put it down because I had like book club books and things that I needed to read for, and now I'm like not in the mood to go back to it, but I will eventually. But this is a very taboo, forbidden age gap coach-athlete romance between a volleyball player and her coach. And the first book ends again on a big cliffhanger. And I remember when I was reading the first book, I didn't know that it wasn't a standalone, and I was like shook by the end. I was like, what the hell? And then I realized that it was not, in fact, a standalone, and it had to continue. So I did start book 2, and I'm actually I was struggling a little bit to like place where everything was, because it had been a while since I read book 1, but I will keep going with it. And like I said, I'm pretty sure there's a 3rd book. It's just not out yet. So that's kind of also the reason then why I'm like, well, maybe I'll just wait a little bit on book 2, so that way hopefully I can just like binge 2 and 3 back to back when the 3rd one comes out. And lastly is the Planet Barbarian series by Ruby Dixon. I have read the first 5 books in that series, and honestly I don't even know how many there are total. Is it like 28 or something books? I don't know if I'll ever finish the entire Planet Barbarian series, okay? But these are such good palate cleanser books for me when I'm stuck. Honestly, maybe that's what I need. Maybe I need to read another Planet Barbarian book because they're quick, they're alien romances, they're about human women who are stranded on this planet and then they find this group of aliens who then like all want to mate with them, and it's like just all about them breeding with these aliens. It's so just like fun and enjoyable, and for me who doesn't really read any other alien romances, it's very different for me personally and like what my reading taste, so it definitely helps to like switch things up every now and then. So I thoroughly enjoy these books. It is a series I'm always interested in picking up the next book in. So anyways, that is it for all of my incomplete series, at least right now. I'm sure there are more, and I didn't go through my entire Goodreads. I kind of just went off my reading journal and like what I had in there. So like I might have more out there that I haven't finished, but that right now is at least like top of my radar, top of my priority list of all of my unfinished series. So anyways, that is it for today's video. Next week we got TBR and wrap up time. My wrap up's gonna be kind of short again. I haven't read that many books because like I said, slump. So anyways, that's it for today's video though, and I will see you when I see ya.